belief, and this is a big thing in my part, is you've got to get the bite before you can land the fish. So when I try to determine where I'm going to throw my lure at, or how heavy a line I'm using, or the type of line I'm using, or the lure that I'm using, I want to get that bite, whatever that takes. I'll worry about getting the fish in after I get the bite, but if I don't get the bite, I'll never get a chance to get the fish in. And the biggest reality about using braided line is, guys, it will never get you more bites, but it will quite often take away from the amount of bites that you get, simply because of the visibility of the line. Now, if you're in any type of a decent water clarity situation, if you've ever seen braided line in the water, it literally looks like a piece of rope in the water. Even some of the more camouflage colors. I mean, Seaguar has a gray line that's pretty, for a braided line, it's fairly invisible. But a lot of people use that yellow line, and some guys use white line. And then what happens is, after you use braided line for a while, the color wears off of it, and every braided line eventually turns like a chalky white, which makes it even more visible. So the cleaner the water, the more visible this line is going to be. And guys, bass are extremely line sensitive in certain situations. Not all the situations. Some situations, not that big of a deal. But if you have a situation where you have water visibility of anything over about 1.5 feet or 2 foot clarity, and you got a piece of braided line that is in the water for any distance at all, I don't care if it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 foot under the water, you're taking bites away from yourself. And don't think, if you're one of those guys that use braid to fluorocarbon, don't think that just because you've got a fluorocarbon leader that's 10 foot long that they're not seeing that braided line. Because if you're in a situation where you got 4 or 5 foot of water clarity, and you've got a big yellow, braided line, main line coming down the water with a 10 foot, fluorocarbon leader on it, don't assume that they can't see that yellow line in the water. I mean, a bass can find a minnow at midnight in 30 foot of water, so they're very aware. They know that line's there. So it only makes sense that the more that you can camouflage your line and have more of an invisible line, the more bites you're going to get, for sure. So bass, it's definitely not helping you get any more bites. Now, another thing the braided line does is it's going to allow you to lose a lot of fish that you normally wouldn't have used, because you do not have the line stretch. One of the biggest advantages about using braided line, fluorocarbon or monofilament line, is the element of stretch that it has. Because when you're fighting a fish and the fish makes a run or a surge, the stretch within that fluorocarbon or that monofilament acts as a shock barrier.